This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Tuesday. Hope your work week is off to a good start. Excited to be here for the next 2 hours talking a lot of football. Glenn West going to join us at 1:30. He's in Nashville, been up there following LSU around at SEC Media Days and checking out the town today. We'll talk about the 4 teams that are going through the SEC Media schedule today. That is Vanderbilt, Georgia, Auburn, and Mississippi State. A couple teams on LSU's division, the defending national champs, and then Vanderbilt, who we'll get to at the end of this hour. So a ton of football to get to here as we're inching towards football season. It feels like the official kickoff up there in Nashville this week. Brian Kelly, as you well know, went through all of LSU's obligations yesterday, and it was right before we went on the air. Live at Lunch gave you some of that sound live, and we kind of reacted to it on this show. And I gave you some thoughts on a couple of topics, Jaden Daniels being one, on some of the other scheduling and whatnot that Brian Kelly talked about. But we didn't have any sound for me to react to, and certainly didn't have all of it to react to. And now I kind of want to go back and touch on a couple of things here for the first 30 minutes of the show as we kind of push off the dock here. So the first place I wanted to start was something we didn't talk about at all yesterday, and something I haven't heard Brian Kelly talk about since word came down that Logan Diggs was headed to LSU from Notre Dame. You know Logan Diggs' story. You know that he's a New Orleans native and that he's been an impactful player at Notre Dame. But I wanted to hear Brian Kelly's thoughts on the Notre Dame running back coming down.
His ability to catch the ball coming out of the backfield, we like his versatility. He played really well at Notre Dame when he was given the opportunity. He was a little bit, I think, limited with a hamstring last year. We saw how he played against South Carolina with the big run. But he's a very talented player in all areas, very smart. Will be kind of what I talked about with Josh. He can play on all 3 downs. He's tough, he's physical, he's a big back. And with speed, vision, it just adds to that room with experience, and that's kind of what we were looking for.
I loved this ad. When I saw that he became available, you fire up YouTube for 6 minutes, and you check out the stat page, and this makes a ton of sense to me. If you look back at last season's games and what Logan Diggs was able to do, he carried the ball 165 times over 12 games. He ran for 822 yards and averaged 5 yards a carry, and had some really nice games against Clemson for Notre Dame. He goes 17 carries for 114 yards. Against South Carolina, he had 13 carries for 90 yards. He did have one big run. He also had a big catch in that game, and he caught the ball for 81 yards in that game and a touchdown. So he can kind of do a lot of things, and he's been productive against high-level competition. He averaged 5 yards a carry at North Carolina last year. He averaged 6 yards a carry against Stanford. He averaged 6.7 yards a carry against Clemson. He averaged 8 yards a carry against Boston College, went for 122 yards and a touchdown in that game. So the size is there, the experience is there, the production is there, and I think he's got a chance to be, I think he's going to be LSU's most productive running back on this team. I mean, clearly he's not going to go to media days like Josh Williams did. He just got here. Josh Williams has been here a long time, is a walk-on, is a Louisiana guy, has played for LSU, and is getting the honor of going to represent the school, which I think is a great, great thing. I think Diggs is a more talented player, and I think Diggs is going to garner more carries than anybody else in the room. But there's another aspect of this running back room as we talk about Diggs and we talk about Josh Williams, and you mentioned Armani Goodwin if he can come back, and you bring in 2 freshmen from the state of Louisiana, and you've got a lot of bodies, and what we've said really dating back to the spring was, but we're not real sure what John Emery is going to be able to do or if he's going to be back on the team. We know that he took time off in the spring to deal with his academics, which I think is perfectly fine. You've been in the program for 4 years. You need to take 2 months to not go out there and rep the same offense you've repped all fall, and you need to take care of your studies. That's what you're here for anyway. So great. But Brian Kelly did give an update yesterday. This sound is courtesy of Jacques Doucet over at Channel 9 on the status of senior John Emery.
Has John Emery been cleared to practice?
He is in the process of being cleared. I think we've got maybe another thing that we have to get through from a couple of things that were put out in front of him. But I feel really good that that's imminent, and he's going to be with us when we open camp.
And that's great news that John Emery is planning to come back and is on schedule to be back if he can clear those hurdles. Now, we've seen those hurdles pop up and answers not be forthcoming, and we don't know what the heck's going on. That was basically the situation with John Emery a couple of years ago. So I'm not ready to, plant the flag and say, yeah, Emery's back and let's roll. But, John Emery's played 3 seasons for LSU, skipped the 2021 season as we mentioned. But with Emery, it's not that I can go back and pull productive seasons or massive games, not even like, Ty Davis Price against Florida. Look at that. Look at the potential that he's got. I mean, Emery doesn't even really have that, but he's got moments. And you know those moments by now. You know the big run against Alabama in the COVID year, in the game that LSU got dusted in, but Emery had a big play in that game. You know last year against Auburn, LSU's back's against it, and he makes a highlight reel run because he's 6'1" and 220 pounds and runs well and busts a tackle and high steps into the end zone. You know about the first touchdown against Alabama on the swing route where he gets out in the open field and shows some speed and makes a cut and gets into the end zone. There are flashes that you've seen of John Emery, and quite frankly, that's the way we usually talk about a freshman. Not that they've had a 1,000-yard season, not that they've had 4 100-yard games, not that they've been the MVP of a bowl game or something. But did you see that play? You see what he could do? And that's kind of the way we talk about Emery 4 years into this thing, which isn't the way you'd like it. You got the number 1 running back in the country. You think at this point he's been an All-American and a 3rd-round draft pick. But the fact of the matter is that John Emery does have some ability. And so to put all this together and to talk about the LSU running back room, I wish Jeremy Hill was LSU starting running back this year. I wish Leonard Fournette or Darius Geis. I'd take Joe Adai right this second. I'd love to have Kevin Falk. I'd love Charles Scott to be the lead running back on this team. I don't see that guy. Maybe Caleb Jackson is that guy. Maybe Trey Holly's that guy. They're freshmen. So you don't have that guy. But do you have enough pieces, enough players to fill roles and be productive? And here's what I would say. That offensive line is going to be damn good. Your tackles are all conference level players. You have veterans who have been in college for 4 years on the interior. You've got a ton of returning starts. And, oh, by the way, a quarterback that gives defensive coordinators nightmares trying to fit runs that involve him. So the pieces around the running backs give the running backs a lot of advantage. The offensive line, Jaden Daniels, the studs on the outside with Neighbors and Thomas, and the list goes on and on. All of those things make things tough on a defense and create space. And I do believe with Diggs and with Emery and with Williams and with Goodwin and with Kane and with the freshmen, you've got enough talent to be really productive at running back. Would it surprise me if one of these running backs ran for 1,300 yards? It would. It would surprise me if John Emery or Logan Diggs or Josh Williams ran for 1,300 yards. Would it surprise me if LSU was one of the 4 best running teams in the Southeastern Conference? It would not. It would not at all. Because you've got a quarterback that's probably going to run for 800, and you're going to have an offense of a group of guys at the running back spot who I think can run for a lot as well. And I don't see a first-team All-League back or a second-team All-League back, and I don't see a top 60 NFL pick. And I would rather that. Trust me. I would rather have that. But I think they're going to be just fine at running back. Now, you don't add Diggs, and Emery decides not to come back or isn't available to come back, And you got Goodwin coming off of an injury and Kane. And then you got the 2 freshmen. I'd go, okay, that's not going to get it. That's not what LSU should have at running back. But you've addressed it. And now you've got vets. I mean, Kane, Emery, and Diggs have been in college for 400 years. So is Williams. And then you bring in the 2 young freshmen, and you hope to get them some reps against Grambling and some reps against Army, and that's ease them in because they're going to be your guys next year. Because a lot of these guys are going to be moving on. But on an offense where I feel so good about the offensive line, so good about the quarterback, I do, so good about the wide receivers, so good about tight end, you start to add all those pieces together, and then you look at the running back spot and you go, yeah, that'll work. Diggs ran for 800 yards last year. Emery's, you give him 10 touches in a game, he might bust one. Josh Williams going to get you what's blocked. He can pass protect. He knows what he's doing in the offense. We think Armani Goodwin's a real talent that if given some health would be able to be a slippery, out in space, dynamic player. Okay, this works. There's no guys. I don't see even a Keelan Williams talent. Stephen Ridley played in the NFL for a long time. I don't know if these guys are, but this will work. And I feel again better about that than I did back in March before all this took place. So that was an update that we hadn't necessarily gotten from Brian Kelly. Got Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos Hunt Palmer Show hanging out with you on a Monday. We got Glenn West coming up in 15 minutes. When we come back, more sound from Brian Kelly talking about his secondary being rebuilt through the portal and talking about the schedule and how the beginning could be a little bumpy. That's next.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,500 off MSRP on all new 23 Ram 1500 Laramie trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you. Bayou Ford has $8,000 off MSRP, plus 1.9% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks, along with Bayou Ford's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Toyota in Opelousas, we have in stock 2023 Toyota Tundras, and you can get $1,000 special edition bonus cash. $1,000 bonus cash. So come on down to Happy Town. That's Corbell Toyota in Opelousas, Happy Town, USA.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $10,500 off MSRP on all new 23 Ram 1500 Laramie trucks in stock. All with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Being a handyman, it's the Hump Day edition of Live at Lunch, live from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street in Mid-City. Live at Lunch, live from Roca, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, rocking and rolling here on a Tuesday. Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Glenn West is going to join us here in about 15 minutes, but I wanted to touch on a couple of other quotes from Brian Kelly yesterday as he met with the masses up there at SEC Media Days in Nashville. One of the things that Brian Kelly talked about was building the secondary through the portal. We know last year they had to. You lost Eli Ricks, you lost Dwight McGlothern, and you look up and you're like, well, we don't really have anybody. So they went and got Brooks, and they went and got Fouché, they went and got Jar Bernard Converse, go to McNeese. You go find anybody that you really can. Major Burns is a big help, and they functioned as a secondary last year. But some of those guys moved on. And Brian Kelly talked about kind of going through this a second time here.
You know, when we talk about areas within your program that you're coming but you're not there yet, when you have to dip into the transfer portal, and this is just my perspective, when you have to dip into the transfer portal and bring in that many guys on defense, that's an area of concern because you really don't know what you have until you play against Florida State. So there are going to be a number of new players back there. We do have some returning players that we're excited about back there. Brooks and Burns in particular are two veteran players that are going to help us a lot back there. But look, that was an area of concern. We're a team that needs to get off the field on third down. We did not do a very good job of that last year. That's going to have to change, and it'll start in that particular area.
I think what he's saying there is, like, we got to start recruiting some high school players to stick around on defense. Because, like I said, you had to go right back to the portal to fill your secondary. You had to go get Deuce Chestnut. You had to go get Denver Harris. You had to go back into the portal to get your starters, and he'd rather those guys come from the high school ranks. And I think they're starting to get on that track. We know that Javian Toviano is gonna push for some playing time early in his LSU career in the secondary. They love Kylan Jackson, the big physical safety from Zachary. And those are probably your two headliners as far as the defensive back class goes. You add Jeremiah Hughes, you add Ryan Yates, and you hope that those guys develop, and that's the point of this exercise, is that you want to make sure that happens. And then if you look into this class currently, they got Deshaun McBride from Indenham, another big physical safety. You got Andre Evans, who's committed from Nashville, who's a big-time prospect, a four-star, kind of across the board. Juwan Johnson's a really athletic player from down here in South Louisiana in the Lafayette area. Joel Rogers is an athletic safety type from West Feliciana. So you are starting to restock those shelves from a high school perspective. Brian Kelly does not want to go get Bernard Converse and Deuce Chestnut every year. He would really rather guys kind of funnel in and be around for a couple of years because, as you said, like sometimes you show up against Florida State and you're not really sure because these guys haven't been out there. If I know that I've had a guy for his third year, like I've got a good idea of what that's going to look like. If I got to go keep getting Zy Alexander from the FCS, I think the measurables are good. Tape looks good. Looked pretty good in practice, but okay, here's Florida State's wide receivers. Let's go. So, again, these signing classes, and we'll go through them all the time, and we'll talk about the guys they add, but even before the transfer portal was a big deal, you were losing or not getting major contributions from half your classes. I think that number's going to go up. Now, Kirby Smart brought up a really impressive point earlier today at his time on the big stage, and it was that they brought in 20 signees in the COVID class, and 17 of them are still there. That's amazing. It's the Brock Bowers class, the Lassiter class, that group that's entering their junior year. They've kept almost that entire class, which is really impressive in any transfer portal year. But the fact that those guys weren't able to go on visits and doing everything virtually and had to kind of show up without really getting to experience what college was like, that's really impressive. But I could go through this entire list of commitments that LSU's got for signing day. How many of them are going to be here in 3 years for their junior year? Like, you don't really know, but you got to keep adding from the high school level, and you want to supplement and patch holes with the transfer portal. You don't want to shape your defense through the transfer portal. Now, they had to last year. There was no option. You had to do that. But that doesn't have to be an every year thing. You can do a better job of keeping high schoolers around and developing talent from the bottom while you sprinkle in some impact guys on the top. So I thought that was an interesting comment from Brian Kelly, and one of those things that he's kind of hinting at when he tells you he doesn't think that the roster is quite where he would like it to be just yet. The other quote that I wanted to get to from Brian Kelly before we get to Glenn West here in a few minutes was talking about the start of your SEC season and really your schedule being away from home.
We're going to have to deal with, how we want to handle that. Certainly 3 out of 4 on the SEC is on the road is a difficult stretch. But later in the season, we're going to have, as you see, we're going to have 5 out of 6 at home. So I think this is going to be much more about the right mindset earlier in the season as we get through the month of September. Getting your guys thinking in such a short period of time where we just work this 1 week at a time and keep them short focused. I think that's what we're going to have to do with the kind of tough schedule we have early on.
I want to get Jacob and T-Bob's thoughts on this a little bit down the road because I think their input on this is significantly more impactful than mine. But it makes sense to me, and I'll toss it to them at a certain point. I feel like LSU's really going to need to lean on its offense early in the season, because you're playing games away from home, and your offense is the group that's got so much back. You've got most of your offensive line back. You've got your quarterback back. You've got all your wide receivers. The guys you're going to count on are back. I don't know how much Aaron Anderson's going to be involved. I think a lot. But in any event, a lot of the guys have been around a good bit. Your running back room is very veteran, and then you add Diggs to it. But you start away from home at Florida State against a good team. You need your offense to come out and help the defense as they figure out what things look like at linebacker and what things look like on the edge and how that secondary is going to gel. And then you got Grambling, so you get right that week. And then you're going to be, as Brian Kelly mentioned, on the road for 3 of 4 SEC games over the next month. And that means you're at Mississippi State, then you're home for Arkansas, then you're at Ole Miss, and at Missouri. Now, I don't think any of those 4 teams are going to win the league. So it's not like you're playing great teams. You're not playing the meat of your schedule. You are going away from home. And it just feels like the offense needs to be moving and rolling while the defense figures some things out. And hopefully at that point, you become the best version of your team and the defense does gel and the offense continues to roll when you get post-Army, post-Halloween, and you've got Bama, Florida, Georgia State, Texas A&M at the end there. That I would call the meat. And I don't think Florida's going to be great, but Bama certainly is. And A&M, that game's just going to matter a lot. It's going to matter a lot for maybe LSU winning the West or getting to a New Year's Six Bowl. It may matter for A&M to make a New Year's Six Bowl or to keep their coach around if things go the other way. So this is a manageable schedule for LSU. We will discuss that a good bit in August. But the way it sets up, yeah, the road splits early aren't that comfortable, but you ought to go to Starkville and win. You should go to Missouri and win. Ole Miss, I would think you should go there and win, but sometimes you don't. They got a good coach. In the middle of all this is Auburn, who I don't think is going to be great, and we'll talk about them later in the show. And then you're at Bama, Florida, who I don't think is going to be great. Then you get Georgia State, and then it's A&M. For an SEC schedule, this is about as good as you can hope. You don't catch Georgia from the East. You don't catch a hot Tennessee from the East. Spencer Rattler's a veteran quarterback, and there seems to be a little bit of juice behind the late season push from South Carolina. You don't play them. You figure A&M and Auburn are the teams you're making sure you want to stay above before you get to Bama, and you got them at home in your division. It looks pretty good, but that start with a lot on the road, I think the offense needs to be ready to roll for that. That's the hope. Maybe the defense just lights out to start. And they put Jordan Travis in a box, and they're fantastic. I trust Matt House implicitly. I think he's great. And I think they do have talent on defense. I like Mason Smith, Mekhi Wingo, Harold Perkins. I like Major Burns, Greg Brooks. Denver Harris, a heck of a player. Okay, but I feel like that unit may need to gel a little bit, and hopefully the offense can pick up that slack early in the season. But that's not – I don't spend a ton of time diving into the schedule in spring football or even, in June when a lot of people have turned the page to football. But now that we start to get to it and you hear Brian Kelly kind of talk about it a little bit, it's favorable. That game to start the season is going to be rather large against Florida State on Labor Day weekend, Sunday, September 3rd, 6:30 kickoff from Camping World Stadium. So there's a lot more from Brian Kelly, but we'll kind of leave that discussion there. I do want to talk about today the four teams that are going through the media days machine. It's Georgia, it's Mississippi State, it's Auburn, it's Vanderbilt. And we'll get to all of that as we move forward. We'll get to Vanderbilt at the end of this hour briefly, and then we'll dive into the other three teams in hour number 2 and kind of give you my big picture thoughts on everybody and what they look like entering this season. But we'll take a time out here, and we'll get back with Glenn West, who's up in Nashville next.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Gulf Coast Bank & Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank & Trust, the bank that cares about you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR live from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days. The defending champs are here. Auburn with Hugh Freeze, Mississippi State, and Vandy. Join us from Radio Row 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving right along here, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Set out to the Jim's Firearms Hotline. We'll go up to Nashville, Tennessee. It's where we find our guy Glenn West of Go 24/7, senior writer over there. Glenn, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, Hunt. How are you?
Doing very well. Your impressions of the setup for Media Day this year up in Nash Vegas?
Yeah, look, it's a little bit different than the Atlanta. I've only ever been to the Atlanta Media Days, and it's really spacious in terms of where they hold it. It's a little bit more just, I guess, condensed in Nashville in the Grand Hyatt where we're at. But you just walk out the front door, and there's just so much to do, and there's so many places around. There's tons of great food, tons of great restaurants, and live music is just right around the block. We're right there on Broadway Street, so it's been a really fun time. It's almost kind of overwhelming how much stuff there is to do out here. So certainly would like them to continue having events here in Nashville so we can get maybe the full experience. But it's been a really good time, and I think a very informative first day there for LSU.
So I want to stick on Nashville briefly because the question was brought up to Greg Sankey. Would you ever explore having the SEC football championship game in Nashville once they build the new stadium with the retractable roof and all that? And he basically shut it down and said, no, we're going to be in Atlanta. What would you say about rotating the SEC football championship game?
I think it'd be fun. I mean, I think it'd be a great time to have it in Nashville. I mean, I've only been here a few days, but I've gotten to do some exploring, some walking around. I think there's a lot of construction going on, down by where the hotel is. So maybe have to, wait a few years. But, look, Atlanta does a really good job with the championship game every year. The SEC's, I think, in a very long-term contract with them to have that game there every year. So it certainly wouldn't be anything that's on the horizon. But Nashville would be a great city, I think, to rotate that game and maybe some other events as the SEC kind of starts looking into doing some more of that kind of stuff.
You got a chance to speak with LSU's 4 representatives, but the 3 players are the ones I'm focusing on here with Mekhi Wingo, Jaden Daniels, and Josh Williams. What did you take away from Jaden Daniels' time up at Media Days?
Yeah, I think he's definitely more comfortable here in year 2. He's definitely putting his feelings out there about him wanting to cap off his collegiate career the right way. Obviously, being his last year in college, and just the vibes that I got from really all 3 players and all 3 leaders of this team. They've got championship on the mind. That's the ultimate goal, I think, for this team. It's the next logical step is getting into that college football playoff hunt, staying there and being able to compete for a national championship. And I think that this is a really confident group. I think they found some great momentum in the latter half of the season, and they really started to find, I think, kind of the method to Brian Kelly's I don't want to say madness, but just the way that he projects things and the way that he wants his players to think about the process on a day-in, day-out basis. I think it's something you can really see that these players have taken to another level this offseason, and then certainly Jaden is going to be at the forefront of all that.
So there was a noticeable shift from 12 months ago when you were speaking to players in the offseason, even in fall camp, in terms of goals and confidence and comfortability and all that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, last year at this time, everybody was so new. And even Brian Kelly said yesterday that I don't know that I knew half the players' names on the roster at this time last year. I mean, they were still in the very, very early stages of getting all that stuff locked down. And now that there's, that not only do you have a bunch of your returning foundation offensively, you got some really exciting young pieces on the defensive side of the ball, but you've also got pretty much your entire coaching staff returning from last year too. You lose Jamar Kane, replace him with Jimmy Lindsey, but outside of that, this staff has continuity as well, and I think that's something you can really lean into. You've got a lot of veteran leadership, a lot of veteran presence here in this roster, and I think when you look across the SEC, there are some noticeable questions that for a lot of these teams going into this year in terms of who's the quarterback going to be for Georgia and Alabama, for example. What's the new coaching situation going to look like at schools like Auburn and Mississippi State? I mean, just there's I think question marks on most rosters across the conference, and LSU is pretty much one of the only ones that has some relative foundation and continuity returning, which makes them, in my opinion, I think one of the favorites to compete at the top of the conference.
Did Josh Williams speak at all about the depth of the running back room and the fact there's one football and 140 running backs on this team?
Yeah, he did, and he was honestly, he played it very conservative. He was very, look, we've got 6 or 7 guys here. I think now that the news has come out about John Emery, you can add another body into that mix as well. But yeah, look, I think that they understand that last year they got hurt way too often. They're towards the end of the season, they really missed Williams. They really missed Armani Goodwin and a lot of these backs that kind of got hurt. And I think Williams is very understanding of LSU going out and adding a Logan Diggs and a Trey Holly and Caleb Jackson into this mix. I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Josh Williams still this year. I think he's still the most trustworthy back on this roster. But I think it's going to be a lot of competition for those reps. And I wouldn't be surprised if things really switch up towards the end of the season.
In what way? What way do you think they'll switch up?
Yeah, look, I think you're going to lean into Logan Diggs. I think Noah Cain, Logan Diggs, Josh Williams are going to be kind of maybe the core 3 that you look at to start the year. But I've heard a lot of great off-season stuff about Caleb Jackson, the freshman running back from down there at Liberty. I think he's going to be a guy that could potentially really break open this room even more. Certainly Trey Holly had a lot of carries back in the spring and has some of that coaching. Just the coaching staff knows who he is a little bit more than the rest of them. But I really like what I've heard about Caleb Jackson. I think he's going to be an explosive weapon that I think can help contribute. And you have to wait and see with a guy like John Emery. Sounds like they're going to try to get him cleared for fall ball. But there's going to be a lot of options, I think, and I think LSU is going to be able to really lean into a bunch of different scenarios here with the running back room, which is a good thing.
I'm sure you've gotten a chance to either interview or just speak with other media members that are up there that are outside of our market. What does the outside say about LSU?
Yeah, so we actually did a poll for our 24/7 sites, like our local team sites, and they all had, the consensus was that Georgia was the clear number one, but LSU was voted number two, and even had one vote from our Arkansas beat reporter that had them winning the entire SEC this year. So, I think there's general consensus here that LSU, I think, is going to be able to compete at the top of the conference. It's, I go back to just the continuity aspect of all this, the foundational, work that the offense has coming back for it. And, I think that LSU's in a really good spot here entering the fall. And I think a lot of the national reporters, a lot of the local reporters are kind of in the same boat in terms of how LSU's going to be able to compete this year in the SEC.
Is there significant, I guess I'll use the word doubt about Alabama?
I haven't picked up on that vibe. Nick Saban is Nick Saban. They you can make the argument they were 2 or 3 plays away from, being in the position of winning the SEC. They lost two nail biter games, and they just as easily could have won last year. But I think the quarterback situation there is really interesting. It's going to be very intriguing to see which guy comes out of that as the clear-cut starter. I definitely think Georgia has maybe temporarily supplanted Bama as the go-to program. I don't think I'm kind of making anything up there. They've won 2 straight championships. They haven't lost a regular season game since 2020. So I think everybody's going to be headhunting Georgia this year and seeing if they can't try to knock them off. And I think Alabama is certainly in that boat with LSU at the top.
As far as the newer coaches in the SEC East, whether it's Napier, Heupel, Beamer, if you want to toss him in there, whose program are you buying in the next couple of years to kind of take the next step? Whether it's South Carolina kind of ascending toward the top, if it's Florida winning the East sometime soon, Tennessee winning the conference sometime soon, who do you like over there?
Yeah, I like Shane Beamer in South Carolina. I think they, I think they're about the right things. I would not be surprised if South Carolina kind of exceeds expectations this year. I think they're kind of projected to finish middle of the pack, maybe towards the bottom half of the conference. But they also have, I think, a pretty they have a group that's returning a lot of strong pieces from last year, and we'll see if that continuity can work in their favor this year, just like you hope it would for LSU. But I like South Carolina. I think they got a young, energetic coach in there who I think is going to be able to do some really good things. And honestly, I think South Carolina is probably going to be my answer there.
See if they can ride the momentum of that Tennessee win, that Clemson win late, and bring it on into 2023. Glenn, thanks so much for your time, man.
All right, Hunt. Thank you.
That is Glenn West, Go 24/7 senior writer. He is up there in Nashville, Tennessee. Our coverage from Nashville, Tennessee for SEC Media Days brought to you by Hudco Roofing, Rev Business, and Relief Windows. Of course, all week long. Morning show, Off the Bench, as well as After Further Review, live from Radio Row up there in Nashville. Tons of guests, tons of energy, tons of content, tons of fun up there for those guys. Saw that Matt had a good chat today with Gary Danielson, which I know makes a lot of y'all roll your eyes because apparently every person who calls games on television hates LSU. But I think it's going to be interesting to hear what Gary had to say with Matt a little bit later on After Further Review, so lock into that. And they'll be there all week long, and we'll be giving you coverage and updates from Nashville right there with them. We'll come back and close out hour number 1, get into some of the teams that are doing their runs through SEC Media Days next.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Bayou Ford has $8,000 off MSRP, plus 1.9% financing on new 23 Ford F-150 XLT trucks, along with Bayou Ford's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCoRoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
All right, let's say ah. Being a handyman, it's the Hump Day edition of Live at Lunch, live from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street in Mid-City. Live at Lunch, live from Roca, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Wrapping up hour number one here, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Allow me just two more times to remind y'all about fundraiser tomorrow night for the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center. I had a chance on Friday to go by the Children's Advocacy Center and to see the incredible people that are doing such amazing work over there with the young people in our area who are dealt just a really, really bad hand. They handle children who have been victims of abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, or been witness to a violent crime. And obviously, oftentimes, those children have to go through the investigation to determine what happened, what they saw, and what the criminal justice system needs to do. And that can be very, very traumatic for these young people. And that's what the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center does. They handle those investigations. They handle the therapy that goes on after it. And some of the stories will break your heart, but they're also very uplifting in the end when these children come out of it and are in such great shape because of the great people over there. So if you have the means and can help by donating to their cause, I would so appreciate it. You can go to my Twitter page, @HuntPalmer88 is my Twitter handle, and the tip jar for their celebrity waiter event that is tomorrow night at L'Auberge is right there. And you can go online, click on it, put your name, put an amount. No amount's too big or too small. I've been blown away by the support that y'all have given to me, both my Twitter followers and y'all, the listener. So if you have the means, I certainly would appreciate your help, because it is a wonderful organization that does amazing work here in Baton Rouge for the most vulnerable that we have, our children. So @HuntPalmer88 is where you can find my Twitter handle, and the online tip jar is right there. Would certainly appreciate your donations, as we've been asking for the last week or so. One more day, as the event at L'Auberge is tomorrow night. Briefly want to touch on Vanderbilt here. Not going to spend a lot of time today on the Vanderbilt Commodores. Big year for the Doors last year. Big year. 5-7 in year 2 for Clark Lee. They beat Florida. They beat Kentucky. So huge to get to 5 when the over-under, I believe, was 2. But, still a team with a long way to go. And A.J. Swan kind of helped make a difference in the way the offense looked last year. He's talented. He's got a big arm. Also, every game he played in league play, Vanderbilt lost. Mike Wright was the quarterback for the 2 games that they won, but he's since moved on. Look, Swan had the fewest interceptions of any FBS freshman with 200-plus dropbacks. He had just 2 interceptions and 10 touchdowns, threw for 1,200 yards. The offensive line returns like 70-plus starts, which is a good start for them. The defense was atrocious in a lot of games last year. Vanderbilt gave up 52 points to Ole Miss. They gave up 55 to Georgia, 38 to South Carolina, 56 to Tennessee. That's Clark Lee's side of the ball. That's what he's going to have to try to strengthen a little bit so that Vanderbilt can put up a fight more often than they did last year. They start their season with the most manageable chunk of their schedule. They start with Hawaii and Alabama A&M at home. They need to win those 2 games. They're at Wake. Now, Wake's been pretty good the last couple of years with Sam Hartman. I'm not going to tell you I've done a ton of Wake research, but I know he doesn't play there anymore. So you've got to think they've got a chance to go to Wake and win. And then they go to UNLV. Why they go to UNLV, I have no idea. Barry Odom's the coach out there now. We'll see. That's 2 non-conference road games that they will play. But theoretically, you could find a way to get by Wake. You could be 4-0. And then your first 2 league games are at home against Kentucky and Missouri, who are not necessarily the most talented team in the league year in and year out. Those 6 games to start the season are winnable in some way, shape, or form. Now, once you get past that, it gets dicey. You got to play 4 of your last 6 on the road. You got to play Tennessee. You got to play Georgia. You've had trouble with Ole Miss. Vanderbilt's going to have to make hay early. That's where they've got to get up and get rolling. And it helps that their offensive line looks to be pretty strong, and it helps that they've got a quarterback they feel is pretty talented. But their defense has got to get better, and they've got to start fast, because if you lose to Wake and go out to UNLV and sleepwalk through it and lose, and then you can't get over the hump against Kentucky or Missouri, we know how this story ends. It's 2-10. They go 2-10. I think Clark Lee is a great guy. I think he's a Vanderbilt guy, and he's somehow made it possible for them to build a massive football facility and finally invest. They haven't done that for years. Vanderbilt just doesn't invest a lot of money. They do a good job with their scholarships in baseball, and they've got a great coach, and that's why they've excelled there. But Memorial Gym is what it is, and the football stadium's pathetic. And if they want to at least put up a fight in the Southeastern Conference, they got to spend some money. And Clark Lee appears to be the guy who is making that happen, but it hasn't happened yet, and they're still going to be outmanned most of the time they take the field. So I think Vanderbilt's got a real chance to win 5 games again, maybe 6 if they really play well. But we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about Vanderbilt on this show. So that's been our 4 minutes on Vanderbilt football here, and we'll kind of move on. If you missed any of the first hour of the show, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or on YouTube. We spent the first 30 minutes of the show talking LSU. We took some quotes from Brian Kelly on adding Logan Diggs to the running back room, on John Emery's availability, talked about starting with 3 or 4 SEC games on the road, talked about rebuilding the defense through the portal, all those topics in our first couple of segments. So you can go check that out on demand. And then we had Glenn West on up from Nashville. He talked to Brian Kelly and LSU's 3 representatives yesterday. So I always appreciate Glenn being generous with his time as he was today as he's up there in Nashville. In hour number 2, excited to kick around some teams that are a little more relevant around here. We're going to start with the defending national champions, the Georgia Bulldogs. Kirby Smart took his turn a little bit earlier. Can they three-peat? Hadn't been done since World War II. Auburn with Hugh Freeze is going to come up at 2:15. We're going to chat about what I think about Auburn's prospects for this year. And then we will have another first-year head coach in Zach Arnett at Mississippi State coming up at 2:30 before we play some Take It or Leave It. So come back with us after Sports Center. It's a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It's that time again. It's heating up. Your boat's getting ready to come out and spend all summer on the water. It's time to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service, where if you want an incredible custom speaker install, it's going to blow people away in the water, that's there for you. You want an HD sonar where you can see the fish under the water before you cast, beat all your friends, that's there for you at front-to-back boat service. So don't put it off. We got the parts in right now. Get them now before they go back on back order. Front-to-back boat service.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. First lawsuit filed against former Northwestern football coach Pat Fitzgerald and members of the school's leadership seeking damages from the hazing scandal. The former player, who filed anonymously, alleges the program and its leaders were negligent in allowing hazing inside the team's locker room. His attorneys expect additional football players and other Northwestern athletes to join the lawsuit. Top NFL running backs like Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry took to social media to rally around the Giants' Saquon Barkley, Raiders' Josh Jacobs, and Cowboys' Tony Pollard after the trio failed to reach long-term agreements before yesterday's deadline. The NFL sending a clear message when it comes to running backs, notes ESPN's Kimberly Martin.
There is a cap on what we think your value is. On the field, we will lean on you left and right. Toss you the ball, hand you the ball. You can win games for us. But when it comes down to what we are willing to pay and how we want to divvy up our money, your position, we don't value it.
Rory McIlroy, Jon Rahm, Justin Rose's group headlined the British Open pairings this week. They tee off just before 10 a.m. Eastern on Thursday.
If you need solid hires fast, you need Indeed. The all-in-one hiring solution makes it easy to attract, interview, and hire candidates from the same place. Want to find your next great hire? Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Now, Hunt Palmer. Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2 on a Tuesday, Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Looking for something to do this evening? Got you covered. Plucker Sports Trivia. Nicholson location, 8:30 every Tuesday. We are there. Excited to be out there this evening. Grab a team. Come on out. Great food, cold beers, sports on TV. You can win some gift cards. Always a great time. Plucker Sports Trivia, 8:30 on Tuesdays. That is tonight, Nicholson location. Going to get into the other teams that are taking their turn at SEC Media Days today. Day 2 of the kickoff event up there in Nashville, Tennessee. And the two-time defending national champions took their turn today. Georgia is the hottest team in college football at this point. There's really no debating that. I was surprised when I looked back to do a little research on Georgia this season at how long Kirby has been at Georgia. He's been there since 2016. I don't know that I realized that. His first national championship was in year 6. Feels like it wasn't that long ago he was at Bama. But it's been a good minute. And he took over a program that was treading water. I don't think Mark Richt ran into the ground or anything, but it was treading water, and he started to stack recruiting classes. You knew Kirby was going to do that. He started winning recruiting battles with Alabama. And with that came the wins. And in their last 6 Southeastern Conference seasons, Georgia is 44-5 against the league. That is yoke. I mean, I feel like personally, there was a time 10 or 12 years ago where there were some real layups on LSU's schedule. And yeah, Vanderbilt's not good, and that's a layup for them. And yeah, Tennessee really hadn't gotten it in gear until the last couple of years, and Florida's been in and out, and South Carolina kind of bottomed out in the must-champ year. So the East has had a little bit of an easier go than the West. But 44-5 is 44-5, and that's really impressive stuff for Kirby Smart and Georgia the last 6 years in the league. Stetson Bennett's gone, as you well know, and I believe he's going to be missed a little bit. T-Bob's been on this heavy, like, it's this guy, yeah, he was a former walk-on, yeah, he's short, yeah, he's got a little bit of an attitude, and he doesn't look like the first-round draft pick that's going to go be a star in the NFL, but he was really good in college. And they don't have a firm answer as to who the next quarterback is going to be. So I went back and did a little research. You may know, may not know. The two guys kind of battling for this gig are Carson Beck and Brock Vandegrift. Beck is thought to have the inside track. He's 6'4", 215. He's a redshirt junior, was a 4-star. He's played in 12 games over 3 years, but all of that's been mop-up duty. There's no Matt Flynn came in the SC championship game, or this is all mop-up duty that Beck has been tasked with. Bennett's been fairly healthy, and there was a little JT Daniels time in there as well. So Beck has not played in any meaningful games. Neither has Brock Vandegrift. 6'3", 205, redshirt sophomore, was a blue-chip recruit. Consensus 5-star, top 25 player nationally. He's only played in 5 games. He's never completed a pass. So at Georgia's quarterback position, they've got no experience whatsoever. They've got talent. They've got no experience. It sounds like Beck's going to be the guy. Now, whoever it is that becomes the guy has got a significant amount of weapons at their disposal. You know Brock Bowers, 6'4", 230. He's scored 24 touchdowns in 2 years. To put that in perspective, Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham both scored 15. Brock Bowers has scored 24 in 2 years. He's been ridiculously productive as a tight end, and he's just a matchup nightmare. Ladd McConkey is super productive for them. Not going to win many tests at the combine in terms of measurables and all that, but he catches the ball. He is explosive on running plays when they get him involved in reverses and whatnot. He had 762 yards and 7 touchdowns last year. Ra Thomas is a transfer from Mississippi State. He led Mississippi State in catches and yards last year and touchdowns. So that's a 6'2", talented guy that was in the air raid last year with Mississippi State, comes over to Georgia to maybe be potentially a 1 for them, or maybe a 1A to McConkey. And then in the running back room, they lose their top 2 guys, but Dejon Edwards is a senior. He ran for 5.5 yards a carry last year, almost 800 yards rushing. So as you would imagine, they've got really good skill position players. Cedric Van Pran is up there with them, the New Orleans product who's going to be their starting center, who's an NFL guy. So the offense has a ton of weapons. It's just a matter of, can the quarterback make the plays necessary? Stetson Bennett made the plays necessary against Missouri last year in a tight game. He made the plays necessary to come back and beat Ohio State. Georgia may win the national championship this year. They might. But there are going to be a game 2 or 3 that are going to be really tight that you need. No one would have had Missouri as that game last year. No one. No one would have had A&M going to Tuscaloosa last year and putting up a fight. Now, Bryce Young didn't play, I get it, but there's always a game or two that just it gets a little wonky, and one of these guys is going to have to do it. And piloting this ship all together is Mike Bobo. There's a lot of polarizing thoughts on Mike Bobo. I don't know enough X's and O's to feel awesome about it. I can tell you it fell apart at Colorado State when he was the head coach and he got fired. So then he goes to South Carolina and Muschamp gets fired. So he's kept on by Beamer. Then he leaves for Auburn and he got fired by Harsin, who wanted his guys. And so he spent last year at Georgia. It's not a ceremonious rise up the coaching ranks here for Bobo in the last 5 years. There's been some terminations. But it's all about fit. And when you're at Georgia, you've got a Jimmy's and Joe's advantage on every play. That's just the reality. And so you have to screw it up, basically. He'd probably rather have Stetson Bennett back. He doesn't. But I'm lukewarm on the whole Bobo situation. I don't have a good enough grasp on what he did that did or didn't work at Colorado State or at Auburn. We'll see. The offense has a couple questions. The defense, to me, has no questions. Yeah, Jalen Carter's gone. Keely Ringo's gone. Christopher Smith's gone. Doesn't matter. When you recruit at that level and you've got that guy running the show on defense, it just doesn't matter. They are going to be dominant on defense because the defense doesn't depend on the quarterback to make the right play, or you can do everything right and the quarterback can screw it up, and you're in big trouble. The defense, you get big, fast, strong dudes that understand the system, that play together, and it's a system. And they got their top 3 tacklers back. There's talent everywhere, and the defense is going to be fantastic. So that gives me no pause whatsoever. Georgia's will they or won't they is baked into what does the quarterback do, and is Mike Bobo capable of piloting this ship? Now, as everyone knows, they catch a break with the schedule. You don't play the Oklahoma game that you were going to play, so you got UT Martin, you got Ball State, you got UAB, and you got Georgia Tech. None of those are any good. And then Auburn's your permanent, and they're at a low point for them right now with a first-year head coach. And the other crossover is Ole Miss at home. And I think Lane Kiffin's a good coach. I think they'll scare some people. I think they'll win some games. I don't know that that's a game that Ole Miss can win in Sanford Stadium. Now, they do have to go to Knoxville. And that's going to be a really tough place to play. What got lost in the last 15 years is how tough it can be to win in Knoxville. Neyland Stadium is not the most comfortable place in the world to watch a game. It's one of the biggest, and it is loud. I was there in 2006 for the Jamarcus Russell game. It was loud. Now, I was there for the 2011 game, and it was not loud because they weren't very good, and LSU ran the ball 100 times in a row and just choked them out. But that's going to be a tough place to play. And that's a game that Tennessee can win. They'll be sky high. It'll be sold out. It'll probably be, game day. It's in November, so it'll matter a ton. It's the last league game of the year for Georgia, right before Georgia Tech. So maybe the East is on the line if Tennessee can replicate a lot of what they did early last year. But really, outside of that Tennessee game, you struggle to find a place for Georgia to trip up. I mean, do you really want to convince yourself that South Carolina is going to go to Athens and win? Is that something you want to stake a claim to? Are you prepared to tell me that Florida is going to go to Jacksonville and beat Georgia? I'm not. I think Georgia's season comes down to one game. And quite frankly, they could probably lose that game, go 11-1, and either play for the SEC championship game, or if Tennessee's only lost one game, they would be an 11-1 team sitting there knocking on the door of the playoffs going, hey. Now, look, they wouldn't have very good wins at that point. You'd be trying to hang your hat on a Kentucky, Florida, and Ole Miss wins. That would be your resume. So it could come down to that game on Rocky Top. But Georgia's going to be really, 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 really good. And, I'm curious to see how this Kirby era goes, because that's not a guy that's headed to the NFL anytime soon, and not a guy that's going to leave his alma mater that's one of the best 5 jobs in the country. So there's a monster cooking in Athens. We, as LSU fans, may have to worry about it in Atlanta, likely, and then we turn everybody loose, and we're all one big division. So we'll see. But by the time it's an expanded playoff, so it's just may matter more you play somebody in the playoffs as opposed to in October. So we'll see. But I think Georgia's going to be great, and I think they're probably going to go undefeated again. Done it 2 years in a row, and I just don't see anybody on the schedule that I really think is going to beat them, unless the quarterback play is just bad, which is possible. But that's really all it boils down to. All right, we're going to turn the page and talk about a couple of SEC West teams coming up next.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the JimsFirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the JimsFirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you.
What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR live from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days. The defending champs are here. Auburn with Hugh Freeze, Mississippi State, and Vandy. Join us from Radio Row 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, a couple of SEC schools in the West with new coaches this year that we are going to welcome to SEC Media Days today. In order to kind of give my overview on those two, we'll start with Auburn. I heard something about Auburn today that's very, very puzzling to me, and we'll get to that here in this segment. Auburn is 11-14 over the last 2 years. Brian Harsin was a disaster of a hire. I don't know that he's a terrible football coach. I know that he came down here. He tried to hire some guys from the Southeastern Conference he didn't want to work with. The brass at Auburn did not like the way that he handled things early. They kind of staged a coup, did an internal investigation on him. He hired the guys that he wanted, basically from Boise in the Midwest, and it just was never going to work. It just was never going to work. And it only lasted a couple years. The roster was gutted. According to 247, 20 guys left. Scholarships were aplenty as Hugh Freeze arrived on the Plains. Now, look, I'm not a Hugh Freeze guy. I think those that have listened over the years know. I think he's going to win a lot of games at Auburn. I think he's a really good coach. I just can't take him seriously. I can't look at your Twitter feed that says one thing and everything that happened at Ole Miss says another thing and marry them together. That irritates me. It makes me not be able to believe you. And so I don't like Hugh Freeze. I think he's a great football coach. But Hugh Freeze said today that he's not going to call plays. Like, that's one of my big positives of Hugh Freeze. I mean, you looked at those offenses at Ole Miss. He was cooking. They were scoring points. That's like one of his best attributes. And he said he felt like he slipped a little bit at Liberty, so he's going to toss those off to his offensive coordinator. Now, Freeze at Ole Miss in year one went 7-6, then went 8-5, then went 9-4, then went 10-3. It was an incremental build over 4 years, every year winning one more game. And then the bottom fell out in 16. They went 5-7, checked out his burner phone, saw some suspicious activity down in Florida, and decided they were going to part ways with Hugh Freeze. But then he took the Liberty job after a couple of years and went 34-15 up there. We know what he did with Malik Willis. Again, I think he's a great coach, and I think he's going to win a lot of games at Auburn. I won't have any problem pulling against him, which is fine for the head coach at Auburn. That's part of the deal for me. Quarterback, big issue, because Robbie Ashford, as physically gifted as he is not the answer. I mean, you saw him against LSU. He makes the one deep ball throw, but like can't really do much else. Just a bunch of running around. So Auburn and Hugh Freeze go to Michigan State, and they get Peyton Thorne. If you're like me, you've never seen Peyton Thorne play one game in your life. I don't watch a lot of Michigan State football. I can tell you what the numbers say, and then I'll tell you what my eyes say. The numbers say he started 26 games in his career. He's a 61% completion guy, 225 yards a game. He threw 49 touchdowns and 24 picks. Last year, in 12 games, he ran for a total of 42 yards. So that doesn't scream dual threat, read option, Hugh Freeze, hyper motions. It doesn't. And then you turn on the tape. And I watched his whole highlight tape from last year at Michigan State. Peyton Thorne is fine. Peyton Thorne is Danny Etling. Peyton Thorne is like Brandon Allen from Arkansas. Really no immense physical gifts. He doesn't have a huge arm. He's not really tall. He doesn't run great, but he does all of that fine. He's got a fine arm. He moves around okay. He's fine. He is the baseline. And that's perfectly fine for Hugh Freeze's first year at Auburn. He's much better, in my opinion, than Robbie Ashford. He doesn't have near the physical gifts of Robbie Ashford, but he'll throw the ball the right place, probably on time, probably on target. He's not going to, make some razzle-dazzle play and pick up 14 yards on third down. He's not going to hit you with the crazy deep ball. He's not going to fit it in some tight window down the right sideline. But he's functional, and that's probably what you want in year one for Hugh Freeze. He's got Jarquez Hunter back, who averaged 6.5 yards per carry, and I'm sure they're going to try to run the ball a lot. They went to the transfer portal and totally overhauled their offensive line, brought in guys from all over the place, and they're just going to try to duct tape this thing together. The defense sucked out loud last year at Auburn. They allowed 29.5 points per game. That was the third most in the history of Auburn. They gave up 40 or more points 5 different times. That's the most in the history of Auburn. So they got to get that fixed. They hired Ron Roberts. You know him, Southeastern, Baylor. They hired Ron Roberts. And basically, the front of the defense is all transfers. The back of the defensive backfield is all a bunch of returning starters that actually played pretty well last year. But they got to play a lot better defense than they did last year. LSU didn't have a lot of success for whatever reason, but they had trouble stopping teams last year. So the schedule's really, the big thing because Auburn's not expected to do a ton this year. They're still trying to get some transfers in, get some recruiting done, and lay the foundation for Freeze's tenure there. And that hasn't been done yet. And sure, BK really outperformed last year. I don't see that for Auburn this year. Their only Power 5 non-conference game is Cal, and they're at Cal, which is a weird game to put on your schedule, but have at it. They do get the two greatest words in SEC football scheduling. If you listen, you know. At Vanderbilt. You can't do anything better than at Vanderbilt. 1, that's one of your road games. 2, they're not going to be good. And 3, great trip for your fans. At Vanderbilt is as good as you can do in the SEC scheduling lexicon. Those are the two best words you can have. Auburn gets it this year. So, of course, they get Georgia, and that's a terrible draw, and they're going to lose that game, probably by a lot. But they should be able to handle Vanderbilt. And you should be able to handle your non-conference games. I think they can beat Cal. So at that point, you got to come back into the West and see what you can do. You figure you split the East, you win the 4 non-conference games, that's 5 wins. What can you do against the teams in your division? And that'll be kind of the story. I think right now, if you injected truth serum into Hugh Freeze and told him, hey, you can win 6 games this year, I think that would be pretty good. I think 7 would be really good. I think 8 would be fantastic. But that's kind of the ceiling at this point with Auburn in year 1 under Hugh Freeze. Now, you wonder what's on the road and what's at home. They go to College Station. I don't like their chances there. They come to Baton Rouge. I don't like their chances there. They do host Ole Miss. Maybe. They do host Mississippi State. You're going to need to win one of those 2. Got to go to Arkansas, and then Alabama comes to you, which is not great. So I'm thinking 6 wins for this team. I think they probably win one of the Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and then lose the rest. Is kind of where I am on Auburn right now. Maybe I see something from Peyton Thorne that changes my opinion on that because I do think Hugh Freeze will put in a good offense, and I think they'll be prepared to play. I just don't think they have the guys right now. I don't think Thorne masks that. I think he's just fine. I think he'll throw for 240 a game, and he'll not run much, and they'll try to run it up in there with a decent stable of backs. And I think it's a pretty pedestrian first year for Auburn. But like I said at the top, I think Auburn is going to win under Hugh Freeze. I think he'll get quarterbacks. I think he'll win some recruiting battles. And I think he'll have his offense prepared to play. And I'll have no problem disliking him and pulling against Auburn. Unfortunately, that's not on the schedule next year. That's one of the games the SEC loses in this whole kind of realignment deal where they're trying to figure out how they want to schedule football games, and LSU Auburn's a casualty of that next year, but they'll be on the schedule the year after that. And I think by that point, Hugh Freeze will have things rolling along pretty well. It's a quality hire from a football perspective, in my opinion. We'll see how it starts off here in 2023 with Hugh Freeze at Auburn. That's first year for Hugh. We'll talk about the first year for Zach Arnett next.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. We've been thrilled to tell you about Corey Barr for better than a month here on the Hunt Palmer Show. Corey is a chef and has found national acclaim by going on television and doing great things. He won Chopped. He beat Bobby Flay. He's been the Food Network new star. And all that's great. And Corey certainly appreciates the recognition, but then he comes back home to Monroe, and that's where he operates his 3 businesses. Being a Louisianian and a proud Louisianian is important to Chef Corey Barr. That's what makes him a champion of Louisiana. If you know a champion of Louisiana, go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate him. Could be a person like Corey. Could be a nonprofit. Could be a business. If they're doing great philanthropic work and making our state proud, championing our state, we want to tell their story. So go to nominate them. We'll tell their story like Corey Barr. Corey's a champion of Louisiana. LWCC is Louisiana loyal.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
This summer, retirement is a state of mind. Whether it's a mid-morning activity or an early bird special, grab a Coors Light and chill like you're retired.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust Poll of the Day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch on Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the Poll of the Day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up and down on my last dime.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows?
Being a handyman, it's the Hump Day edition of Live at Lunch, live from Roca Pizzeria on Government Street in Mid-City. Live at Lunch, live from Roca, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Moving right along here with our teams that will be represented in SEC Media Days today. We opened things up with Vanderbilt at the end of hour number 1. Talked about the defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs. And we touched on Auburn there. So time to hit Mississippi State. State obviously dealing with just an awful tragedy and the loss of their head coach and Mike Leach before the bowl game last year. And Zach Arnett, the defensive coordinator, was tabbed to be the next full-time head man at Mississippi State. Arnett not been a head coach, has been a defensive coordinator, but he's done a really good job as a defensive coordinator at Mississippi State. He elevated his linebackers coach, Matt Brock, to be the defensive coordinator, so the scheme on that side of the ball is not going to change at all. You've got the same guy as the head coach and a defensive coordinator that was right in the middle of the defense coaching linebackers last year. I did not realize this, but this is pretty impressive for Mississippi State last year. They were top 5 in the SEC in total defense, yards allowed per play, fewest first downs allowed, takeaways, run defense, yards per carry allowed, interceptions, and passes defended. That kind of runs the gamut. You're talking about total defense, yards allowed per play, talking about interceptions as a total, the whole package, the front end and the back end. Mississippi State played good defense last year. And so they're going to need to do that again. Their top 2 tacklers are back. They were incidentally the top 2 tacklers in the entire SEC last year, Jet Johnson and Nathaniel Watson. And you got to hope that offense, that defense is really good, because it feels like the offense is going to go through some growing pains. You would rarely say that when you've got a 4th-year starting quarterback who's shattering records. But when you overhaul the offense to the point of going away from the air raid into something a little bit more balanced, like what Appalachian State was running last year, which is where they got their coordinator from, you feel like there may be some hiccups. But Will Rogers has been really good for his 3 years in Mississippi State. He's thrown for 10,689 yards. And listen to the names that he's going to check off this year, assuming that he stays healthy. He's going to pass Danny Werfel's career passing yardage mark in week 1. He'll probably pass Eric Zier, the former Georgia quarterback, in week 2. He's going to pass Peyton Manning at some point in September, Chris Leak as well. He will probably pass David Green in September. Drew Lock is up next. That'll probably be before Halloween when he passes Drew Lock. He needs 2,477 yards to top Aaron Murray for the most passing yards in the history of the Southeastern Conference. Again, 2,477 yards. I would think he would get to that before the Egg Bowl for sure. I don't know how much Mississippi State is going to throw it. We don't really know. We knew what it was going to look like last year and the year before that. We knew what it was going to look like before they set foot in Tiger Stadium in the COVID game when Costello set all the records. Just couldn't stop it. This is not going to look exactly like that. They're going to incorporate a more traditional offensive line setup. They're going to incorporate the run a little bit more. They're not going to do quite as much quick passing game, although they'll probably do some because that appears to be in Will Rogers' skill set. But it's going to look a little different. But Will Rogers is going to going to make some history this season. He's got Jaquavius Marks at running back, he's good. I think probably underutilized a little bit. I mean, a lot of the Mississippi State running backs are just catching passes in the Leach offense. They ran it more than you probably think, but they don't run it a lot. And then we mentioned in the Georgia segment, Ra Thomas, one of their leading receiver last year, went to Georgia. So they've got to fill that hole. But Jaden Wally and LaDedrick Griffin are 4th-year wide receivers who were in the top 3 in that rotation last year. So it's a decent skill position set, and the offensive line is super old. But the thing is that they have to do something totally different than they've been doing for the last 3 years. For the last 3 years, Mike Leach and his staff have recruited long, lean offensive linemen to stand 2 feet apart from each other and pass protect. That's about it. Every once in a while, we'll come downhill and run it, but that's really all you're going to do. And if you want to turn this thing into a balanced attack that runs the football a lot, well, you either need to put some weight on these guys or change the way they play, or both. And I'm curious how that looks. Rogers should understand it. He should complete the open passes. He should be very functional as the quarterback, but I just wonder about that massive shift. It's like when Paul Johnson left Georgia Tech and you go from that style of offense to try to be more traditional, there are growing pains there. And I think there'll likely be growing pains for Mississippi State. Now, I know that Mississippi State threw for 1 billion yards in game 1 of the Leach era, but do you remember what happened after that? They couldn't score a point. Arkansas shut them down. Kentucky shut them down. Bama shut them down. They hit a wall and couldn't do anything. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's not out of the question when you go from something that extreme to something more traditional. So the offense, we'll see. Defensively, like I said, they should be good, and that's going to need to carry them. And then you look to the schedule, and they start with Southeastern Louisiana, so you get a scrimmage there, glorified scrimmage. And then Arizona comes to Starkville. I don't know squat about Arizona. It's a Power 5 team. State beat them last year. But they're coming in, and you should be able to get off to a good start because I think they'll win both of those games. But then it starts to get bumpy in a hurry. And you wonder how this stretch is going to go. You got LSU coming to Starkville for an 11 o'clock kickoff. Then you're at South Carolina, which may not be a picnic for this team. Then you got Bama. And thankfully, they baked in a Western Michigan game there in October because I think they're going to need it. Because then they're at Arkansas, at Auburn, before Kentucky. Then they're at A&M, Southern Miss, and Ole Miss comes to Starkville for the Egg Bowl. So they're probably going to deal with some adversity early because I think they're going to lose to LSU, South Carolina, and Alabama before they beat Western Michigan. So how does a first-year head coach putting in a new system with a senior quarterback deal with loss? Because I think that's coming. I don't think it's a break for Mississippi State that LSU and Alabama are two of their home games. Those are the best two teams in the West, and I don't think they're going to win either of those games. And you only get 4 of them in the league. So I'd really rather play some of my lighter teams at home. I'd rather play South Carolina at home. I think that may change the dynamics of that game. I'd rather play Arkansas at home. I'd rather play Auburn at home than play LSU and Bama. For the same reason that I personally think at Vandy is as good as you can do in scheduling. If you're going to lose a game, it might as well be a road one so that you can win your games at home. I don't think it's a great schedule for Mississippi State. And I think they'll be battling for bowl eligibility. If I'm trying to get to 6 wins with State, I feel good about Southeastern, I feel good about Arizona, and I feel good about Western Michigan and Southern Miss. So I've got 4. I think they'll win 4 non-conference games. So I got to get 2 in-league games. You got to find 2 at South Carolina, at Arkansas, at Auburn. Those are all road games. Kentucky at home, at A&M, or Ole Miss at home. What do we like there? We like the Egg Bowl at home. They won that game last year. Do we like at Auburn? Do we like at South Carolina? How are we supposed to feel about South Carolina? They win those 2 games late, and you kind of think they may have turned a corner. Maybe they're still just South Carolina. They're not that good. But I think it's a rough go. And the only thing that sticks in the back of my mind with Mississippi State is we were told that Zach Arnett's interview with LSU went really poorly. Now, interviewing to be the defensive coordinator at LSU and the head coach of Mississippi State are very different things. And Zach Arnett's track record as far as coaching defenses is really good. But I worry about a guy who interviews very poorly at LSU commanding the program in the locker room and leading. I don't know Zach Arnett. But that interview, it sticks with me every time I think about him. We'll see. I haven't heard what he sounded like in his media day press conferences. That's not the most important thing in the world either. But if it doesn't sound great at media days when you've been coached up and are getting easy questions and can handle that, what's it going to sound like when you're leading the team, especially if you lose 3 games in a row? I don't know. I'm probably reading too much into that. But that's, I guess, what time of year it is here in July to read a little bit too much into all that. Our SEC Media Days coverage all week long, brought to you by the folks at HUDCO, Rev Business, and Relief Windows. Appreciate them for bringing you off the bench in the morning, for bringing you AFR in the evening, and for allowing us to have some guests throughout the week as well. Those 3 coming up big for us this SEC Media Days. I'm looking up at the TV, and they are live all day long on SEC Network. I'm looking up at Jordan Rogers and Greg McElroy talking Mississippi State. The over-under for Mississippi State looks like it is 6.5. It's hard for me to get them to 7, so I would probably have to go on the under there. But it's going to be interesting for sure. They got Auburn's over-under there at 7. I think that's right about where it should be. So we'll come back and close things up. Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team been in the game for 30 years, redesigning and remodeling closets and bathrooms. Maybe it's not you. Maybe you're very comfortable in your living situation, but you've got a loved one who is aging. lived in a house for a long time, has no intention of moving out of said house, but may need a little bit of help in the bathroom. David Duvall and his team do that all the time. They can do things like a walk-in tub that make things more comfortable and convenient for an aging loved one. They can put handrails and guards in the shower, in the bathtub area. They can help you with toilets as well. So if you've got an aging loved one that has no intention of moving anytime soon but may need some things to help them get around in the bathroom, One Bath and Closets can help you with that. Go to the website, onebathandclosets.com. Click that free consultation. Have David and his team come on over and show you what they can do for you. Doesn't cost anything to have the conversation. You can see the testimonials on the website. You can see some of their great work on the website as well. Invite you to give it a look. It's onebathandclosets.com, where they're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Onebathandclosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hi, I'm Brandon Landry, founder and CEO of Walker.
Hi, my name is Dr. Craig Green.
This is Ryan Terrio with HUDCORoofing.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. No matter how big your commercial roofing job, HUDCO can help.
My patients come to me because they trust that I can get the job done at a high level. Ryan Terrio and Richard Tilley have the same level of trust when it comes to roofing.
If you have a roofing issue, call HUDCO Roofing.
Give us a call, 364-1007, and we'll come to your house and give you a free inspection.
Rev Business started small in 1935. We built our reputation by providing hometown service with Louisiana hustle. For nearly 90 years, we've expanded across our great state, through the swamps and across the Mississippi, bringing fiber optics from the capital to the North Shore and down the bayou to the coast, all to connect your business with the world. Rev is about big business technology with small business personal service, powerful solutions, unmatched local service. Rev Business.
Was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR live from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days. The defending champs are here. Auburn with Hugh Freeze, Mississippi State, and Vandy. Join us from Radio Row 3 to 6, 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're looking for something to do this evening? Plucker Sports Trivia, 8:30, Nicholson location. We'll be watching sports on TV. Cold beers, great food, a lot of fun. So grab a team. One of my Pluckers at 8:30. We'll have you out of there by 10 o'clock. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It, Jacob Beck.
All right, first one here. Paul Skeens signed for $500,000 under slot, still making him the highest paid draftee in MLB history. The Pirates got a deal. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'll take it. I think Skeens is going to be a lot better than $9.2 million, which is what he signed for. Slot was 9.7. So one-time deal, and he'll sign as a free agent somewhere else when his time in Pittsburgh is over. But they got a potential ace for $9 million, which is about $200 million less than it generally costs. So I think Skeens is going to be a heck of a player. I don't know how true or not the Dylan Cruz rumors for what he wanted were. We'll see what Washington signs him for. But 9.7 was the slot for the top pick, and Paul signed for 9.2. So they did save $500,000 to spend elsewhere in their first 10 rounds if they want it. Best of luck to Paul Skeens when he's not pitching against the Cubs.
Aiden Travinsky has announced he will return to LSU for another season. Travinsky will be the primary catcher. Take it or leave it.
I'll leave that. Milazzo's going to come back, I believe, and Neal's going to be back. So I think Travinsky will catch a little bit, but I think he'll DH a lot. And I think he's just a guy who is enjoying his time as a college baseball player. He's going to be a high-profile player on a high-profile team, playing in games that matter this year. And the alternative was to take, $20 grand, $8 grand, whatever, and go ride buses. And that's just not, I think, what he wanted to do with his next year of his life. So I'm thrilled that Travinsky's going to come back. I think he's got a spot on the team and hopefully has another power-filled year. He only played really the last half of this year. They didn't have him in the everyday lineup until the Ole Miss series. So stand to reason that he'd be the same player he was this past year and be a really productive player in the middle of LSU's order. So I think that's a good thing for the Tigers.
Sports Illustrated is reporting that there is no market for James Harden. Take it or leave it.
I mean, I'll probably take it. I'm not the salary cap guru in the NBA, but I know that James Harden commands a massive amount of money, and he's not a super efficient player anymore. I mean, he certainly was a lot better this past year than he was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was turning on the playoffs, and this guy was kicking the ball out of bounds, air ball and threes. I mean, it was an absolute disaster in the playoffs 2 years ago. He was pretty good this past year, but he commands a massive amount of money. He's got the ball in his hands all the time. It's just not – he's not what he was 8-9 years ago. And so I'm not, in a salary cap sport, dumping that much money into that guy and having to make that work. And it's a bad spot for Philly to be in because they can't really move him and they don't really – it's just the NBA has gone to a place where the players have so much autonomy in what they want to do that the GMs are like crippled all the time, and they end up dumping all this money into players that you don't want to be there or aren't that good anymore, and it just a lot of times doesn't work. So I believe that not a lot of teams want to spend a max deal contract on James Harden. I wouldn't either.
All right, last one here. On this date in 2008, The Dark Knight was released. Heath Ledger's Joker is the greatest villain in history. Take it or leave it.
Okay, so y'all know I'm pretty compromised here. I haven't seen all the villains. I mean, I've never even seen a Star Wars with Darth Vader. So I'm gonna take it. Like, I've never seen a better performance by a villain in a movie ever. But I don't watch horror movies. I don't watch that many action movies. Like, I'm not the pop culture guy to go to here. But I did see Dark Knight in theaters, which is rare. I don't go to the movies very often. But I did go in 2008 to see it, and I remember just being blown away by the movie. I loved it. I loved the plot. I loved Heath Ledger. I loved everything about it. I know there are some that want to poke holes in it. There are some that say it's not as believable. I thought it was awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. When I see that it's on HBO or whatever, I'll watch it for 20 minutes just about every time. So I will say yes. Do you have any thoughts on the greatest villain ever?
I mean, it's hard to disagree. I mean, there's been some other ones that people may say, but in terms of like the character, like all the different theories people have about his background, it's just kind of tough for me to say that there's anyone else that would be better.
And I think that the fact that he won the Academy Award.
Yeah,
I think
posthumously.
So, right. And it's like, I hope that people don't take that as he
deserved
just
it.
a handout at that point. Like he certainly deserved to win the award. And I love that movie. I think it's awesome. I haven't seen a lot of movies, but I love that one. So I would take Heath Ledger against the rest of the field there. All right, that'll do it for a Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. I'm going to take one more moment to talk about the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center here as we wind down. I did it at the end of hour number 1. I'll do it again today because we only have one more day after this to promote. They've got their annual fundraiser tomorrow at LaBerge. I'll be a waiter there collecting tips, and we're raising money for such an amazing organization. I was able to go by the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center last week. What they do is they help in terms of the investigation and the therapy that may need to go on afterward for children in our area that have either witnessed violent crimes or been victims of sexual or physical abuse. The most vulnerable population we have here, and the Baton Rouge Children's Advocacy Center does such a tremendous job at helping them through this awful period in their lives. So if you've got the means and have the ability to go to my Twitter profile at HuntPalmer88 and donate to this incredible cause to help these children and help the amazing people over there that guide children through these awful situations, we certainly appreciate it. I am honored to be a part of this and can't wait to get to LaBerge tomorrow night for the actual fundraiser. But the online tip jar is open at HuntPalmer88 if you can donate. It's very, very easy, and I've been blown away with how much y'all, the listeners, have donated. It's been fantastic to see that. So thank you all for all of that. If you missed any of the show today, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We talked to all 4 teams that were in Nashville today. Georgia, Mississippi State, Auburn, and Vanderbilt. Going to do it again tomorrow. Very excited. So Matt Moscona is up in Nashville. He's going to have a great show for you today on After Further Review. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Hunt Palmer Show.